So we woke up this morning, and I was, of course, the first one to get up in the shelter, and my mom walks over and whispers to me that there's something wrong with her knee. I'm Matt Podolsky. In 2022, I tried to thru-hike the Appalachian Trail with my mom, Candy. We were looking at backup options as she kind of stretched out her knee and walked around a little bit and tested it out. But she opted to keep going, to push on and see how it feels today. What are you thinking about for a target today?
I was looking at it and literally just pulled out the next page to see where we're going.
That's KFC, one of the members of our newly formed trail family, or tramily.
The good news is, we got one, big steep climb like we've had, but then its descent is very, so I don't know about her, but for me, it's the descent that kills my knees more than anything,
Totally.
So.
Yeah, definitely, it looks on the map like an easier day. My mom and I were right in the heart of New Hampshire's White Mountains. This is some of the most technically challenging terrain on the entire Appalachian Trail. My mom had just rejoined me on trail after recovering from a partially torn Achilles tendon, so these rugged peaks were a shock to her system.
There were a couple times where I had trouble, getting my leg up, and then I'm like, I hope my knee can do this.
The Appalachian Mountain Club, or AMC, has been building and maintaining hiking trails in the White Mountains for well over 100 years. But many thru-hikers have a love-hate relationship with the AMC.
We were not built, Lake of Clouds was not built to accommodate the volume of thru-hikers. It was built, decades and decades ago when there was very few people up there.
This show is about more than just the Appalachian Trail. It's about the balancing act between outdoor recreation and ecosystem protection. This is Common Land.
So I'm Nicole Zussman. I'm the president and CEO of the Appalachian Mountain Club. So I am a total out-of-the-box president and CEO for the AMC. I have been in the for-profit world for almost 30 years, focused in human resources, as a chief people officer in a variety of industries, e-commerce, publishing, even the New York Yankees. And I had made the decision that I wanted to focus the back half of my career in nonprofit in a place that I strongly believe in their mission and that I'm passionate about. So when I got the call about the role, it truly was a way for me to combine my professional experience, which has really been focused on bringing people together with my personal passion of the outdoors. We're probably most known for the huts in the Whites, but we do so much more than that. The Appalachian Trail would not be maintained without we maintain hundreds of miles of it in our region. And so it's that opportunity to collaborate with our partner conservation organizations, our partner recreation organizations, our volunteers. So much of trail maintenance is done by our volunteers at our chapters. Every chapter has a trails committee. But we differentiate ourselves from other straight conservation organizations in that we are the intersection of the people and the land.
New Hampshire's presidential range includes the most famous peaks in all of the White Mountains. The range is iconic not just because it's the tallest in the Northeast, but because the climbs are just brutal. The weather is notoriously unpredictable and the trails are incredibly steep. But the views are simply unmatched. All right, it's August 24th. I'm climbing up onto the presidential ridgeline. It is a gnarly climb. started raining on us. So got thoroughly soaked. But once we got about halfway up the climb to the ridge, the trail just started to get a lot more difficult. There's a lot of just big, giant boulders that you gotta scramble up. And the boulders are wet and slippery. Not too far back, I slipped as I was going up one and slid back down and scraped my knee up. I'm up here on the peak of Mount Webster. I've been up here for a little bit, just waiting for my mom to catch up. But I'm in a flock of golden and ruby-crowned kinglets. Hey, Mom.
Where are you?
Over here.
Okay. Do you have memories of going down this? Is it easier going down than going up?
I don't know.
That was really hard. And, I mean, I'm not wrong about that, right?
No, it was. I mean, we're basically at the same elevation now as that hut, Mizpah hut. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we do have to go down and then back up a little bit.
After all that, you know?
Yeah.
The presidential ridgeline boasts by far the largest area above treeline in the northeastern United States. This exposure makes the ridgeline one of the most dangerous stretches of the Appalachian Trail. This is why it's so wild when you come across one of the huts that the AMC runs up on the presidentials. Each hut is a little oasis from the extreme weather. Inside, hikers find many of the amenities of a modern hotel: fresh water, bathrooms, snacks for sale, hiking maps covering the walls, and bunk rooms where folks can spend the night. The staff serve family-style meals for folks who pay to spend the night, but a lot of hikers use the huts to stop for a rest, escape the weather, and use the bathroom. The fact that this level of hospitality exists in these extreme high alpine environments is kind of amazing. But the beginnings of the AMC's hut system were a lot more rustic.
The only reason that AMC built its first hut on the presidential range was because a logging company deeded us an acre.
That's Becky Fullerton, the archivist for the Appalachian Mountain Club.
The first hut, Madison, was built in 1888 and opened in 1889. And it was based purely on the concept of the European Alpine hut. So kind of a lonely stone structure up in the mountains that was there for keeping you alive, basically, so that you could go camp out at this cool, high, alpine, remote place and not die of exposure. But the modern kind of the huts the way that they are today, I think, sprung up more in the 1930s, so in the Joe Dodge era. So Joe Dodge was the huts manager from 1922 all the way up to 1958. He made the hut system into this idea where you could find hospitality in high places. It's kind of their tagline, and he was really instrumental in making the hut crews what they are today. So this very welcoming, responsible, professional group of individuals that are there to run the hut during the season and, make you a great meal, but also save you if you are out lost on the ridge at midnight in the rain.
There are 8 AMC huts in the White Mountains, and sometimes people will turn them into a tour, going from hut to hut and spending the night. Booking them can be competitive, especially during midsummer when the Whites are a hugely popular tourist destination. For thru hikers, the huts can provide relief too, but it's not always that simple. After our dramatic climb up onto the presidential ridgeline, my mom and I met up with the rest of our tramily at Mizpah Hut. We ate lunch, filled up on water, and kept moving, traveling along the high ridgeline towards the next and most well-known of the AMC huts, Lake of the Clouds. All right, I'm up on the ridge line of the presidential range, less than a mile from Lake of the Clouds hut. Camping isn't allowed above tree line, and it takes most thru hikers 2 days to traverse the entire presidential range. So Lake of the Clouds hut, with its position about halfway across, is an important stopover spot for AT thru hikers.
Facilities like huts actually allow more people to be up in the backcountry with less impact.
That's Nat Scrimshaw, the chair of the World Trails Network's Hub for the Americas and also a volunteer trail adopter for the Appalachian Mountain Club.
If you're actually looking at impact, the highest impact you can have is if people are dispersed camping.
This is why the huts are so important to the White Mountains. They provide access to some of the region's most spectacular scenic areas while keeping the impact on sensitive alpine ecosystems to a minimum. So why do many in the Appalachian Trail thru hiking community bemoan the presence of the huts?
You're talking about $125 or something, or $200 for lakes. I don't even know what it is anymore.
Non-member rates for the 2025 season at most Appalachian Mountain Club huts are $207 a night.
It's only a certain class that has the ability to use that facility. And we're not bringing in our larger community in the United States. And I think part of that has to do with the cost.
At the end of the day, we are operating a lodging operation, and the costs have gone through the roof as they have anywhere. You go out to eat, and it's 3 times as expensive.
Again, that's Nicole Zussman, CEO of the Appalachian Mountain Club.
What are we providing? We're providing food. We have to, we do airlift in things a couple times every season. We have to airlift in our generators, all the blankets, things like that. And, costs of diesel fuel. So our costs have gone up exponentially. Yes, it's expensive, as is all hotel lodging these days.
Most Appalachian Trail thru hikers can't afford to spend over $200 a night to stay at a hut. But the Appalachian Mountain Club does offer a work-for-stay program, allowing a certain number of thru hikers to eat leftovers and sleep on the hut floor in exchange for helping with cleanup after dinner. But these work-for-stay slots are limited, and there's no way to guarantee a spot ahead of time. On our way there, we basically had our fingers crossed that we'd get a spot. So yeah, I'm just taking a quick break here before pushing on to Lake of the Clouds hut, hoping that we're going to be able to stay there, because if not, we gotta hike down to the closest campsite and then back up to the ridgeline to continue our traverse of the presidential range along the AT. So that would be really not great if we had to do that. My mom and I arrived at the hut in the late afternoon, and we snagged the last 2 thru hiker spots available for the day. I'll share more about our stay at Lake of the Clouds hut after a short break. Hey there, adventurers. Are you ready to hit the trail this season? If so, check out Big Agnes, the mother of comfort. Whether you're backpacking, car camping, or sleeping under the stars in your backyard, Big Agnes gear is built for comfort without compromise. Their award-winning sleeping bags, pads, and tents are lightweight, durable, and feel like home, no matter where you roam. Say goodbye to cold, stiff nights, and hello to plush, cozy sleep in the wild or your backyard. Find Big Agnes at an outdoor retailer near you or at bigagnes.com and feel the difference. Big Agnes, comfort built for the backcountry. We're back. I'm Matt Podolsky, and you're listening to Common Land, a show about the Appalachian Trail. We had an interesting stay at Lake of the Clouds last night. My mom and I got in just in time to do the work for stay program. We just did some pretty minimal
work, helping clean up after dinner, and got to eat some leftovers and sleep on the floor. There's a group of thru hikers that have been calling themselves the Trouble Bubble, and one of these guys who we're friends with, whose trail name is 7 Plates, showed up at the hut, and he was the first one, so the first of the 6 to show up. So he was sort of asking the caretakers if there was any room for him or his friends, and they were very solidly like, no, there's no more room for any thru hikers in this hut, and they recommended that he go a quarter of a mile down to a stealth site. So the rest of his crew show up, they all hike a quarter of a mile down, they get down there and realize that the stealth site they'd been directed to was flooded. So they walk back up, they arrive back at the shelter, and they basically just said, look, we don't have anywhere else to go. Like, you gotta let us crash here. And they did. They let them all just sleep on the floor. One of the members of the crew was doing a little program and taking questions. And one of the questions they asked was if they were at capacity that evening, and she explained that they weren't. Like, they had 50 something or maybe 60 something guests, and they have 90 something bunks. And so I'm just like, how, like, you've got all these thru hikers coming through that need a place to stay, and you have 30 open bunks, and you're telling them to go like down the mountain to a stealth site where they're going to set up their tent in the Alpine zone. Like, it's utterly baffling to me.
I didn't get a chance to ask Nicole Zussman why these open bunks weren't offered to thru hikers, but I did ask her about thru hiker accommodations at the huts, and here's what she had to say.
I mean, at the AMC, we want to get everybody outdoors, but again, it's not getting everybody outdoors to be a thru hiker. And again, we're kind of veering away from, it's not about these massive milestones or waving your flag, I did this. It's like, just go outside for half an hour every day. I think the bigger issue is that it's become part of our, winning society. So many thru hikers now are doing it for very different reasons. Like, it's just become a trophy for a lot of people. If you want that trophy, then it's a little harder to get because there are so many people.
Are there too many people thru hiking the Appalachian Trail? It's all relative, and while Lake of the Clouds Hut felt crowded to me at the time, it was nothing compared to our next stop along the trail. From Lake of the Clouds, hikers ascend to the highest point in New England, Mount Washington. As my mom and I climbed to the summit, we were surrounded by a dense fog. Giant boulders emerged from the mist as we scrambled across a landscape that felt otherworldly.
0.6 to the top.
I'll take it.
Yeah. We just did about a mile.
I know, that's amazing.
Yeah, didn't seem like a mile.
It went faster than I thought, but I seem to remember that as you get to the top, it gets a little...
Yeah, I remember the last half mile, you're just
thinking,
doing the boulder scramble type thing.
Get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm still happy with the progress.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
We scrambled through a maze of boulders, guided by white blazes that emerged one after another from the fog. But then, suddenly, we were walking on pavement, and a large concrete structure loomed alongside us. We made our way to the visitor center and were greeted by fluorescent lights, linoleum floors, and a cafeteria-style lunch line. At first, the building was mostly empty, but soon, the first group of people arrived on the Cog Railway, and we were engulfed by crowds. All right, I'm down in the basement of the Mount Washington Visitor Center. It was super foggy and really, really windy when we arrived on the peak. And interesting experience to then walk into the visitor center and see large groups of people. So I'm just going to go up and leave the recorder on and get some ambient. Sounds like the train is going to arrive pretty soon here.
The observatory and
After spending months on the trail, seeing so many people crowded onto a mountaintop was a shock. From within this mass of tourists at Mount Washington summit, my beef with the AMC's hut system started to feel a bit petty. Compared to the commercial interests that have taken root on the peak, my experience at Lake of the Clouds hut feels pretty tame. And what's wilder is that none of this is new. The Cog Railway has been bringing people up to Washington Summit since 1869, and the Mount Washington Auto Road first opened to horse and carriage in 1861. Today, it costs almost $100 to ride the Cog Railway, and access to the Auto Road isn't cheap either. These commercial operations are well-funded and well-maintained, unlike many of the region's hiking trails.
There's not enough funding to take care of the trails in our whole public land system.
Again, that's Nat Scrimshaw, the chair of the World Trails Network's Hub for the Americas, and also a volunteer trail adopter for the AMC.
We have chosen as a country to underinvest. I've watched over the course of my life the resources for recreational trails in the White Mountain National Forest relative to the needs just, decrease and decline. And then there are groups like the AMC. They've been taking care of the trails since before the White Mountain National Forest existed. And they've used the hut system that they've developed also to help bring an income to pay for their organization. That's their strength and also their weakness. The Forest Service really depends on groups like the AMC and also the smaller clubs to do trail work, and there isn't enough money to really do the work that we need to do on the trails. And this dependency or this working with partnerships, I feel is good and not good. And I think we really need more resources for our public lands, as well as these wonderful partnerships, so that we can adequately take care of the trails, because you start making compromises. The AMC is partially, they're dependent upon their hut system for some piece of their income. If they came to the conclusion that they should lower prices for ethical, socioeconomic reasons, they would have a hard time making that decision, because they're dependent upon their, business model is in part dependent on that. So the whole system is kind of falling apart right now for trail maintenance, unfortunately, including, depending upon the AMC.
Oh, hey! What's happening? This is a nice little site.
Yeah. I didn't find that one that you guys were looking for.
I didn't find it either. My mom and I just camped right along that river.
Yeah.
But
I was with Tater and we were looking. We found one with a bear box, and the sites were just garbage.
That's Koozie, another member of our tramily.
Just done. Whatever I can find.
Yeah, totally. It worked. I slept.
We're all gonna meet up at the visitor center?
Sounds like it.
Okay. Sweet.
Yeah. At the visitor center, we laid out our wet gear to dry in the sun, then hitchhiked in groups of 2 into the town of Gorham, New Hampshire, where 7 of us shared an overpriced hotel room. We were almost through the White Mountains and about to cross the border into Maine. Our sights were beginning to narrow on that beacon of grandeur that sits at the Appalachian Trail's northern terminus, Katahdin.
All right, it's August 28th, which means I've been on trail for exactly 5 months as of today. I've been waiting here for my mom to catch up. I'm hoping she's gonna catch up pretty soon. At this point, I've been sitting here, hanging out at this spot for quite a while, about 45 minutes, and I'm just antsy. I'm just ready to go. I want to keep walking. When my mom caught up, she was in rough shape. Both her knees were now bothering her, and she had already decided that she needed to get off trail and give them a break.
If I could make it to the shelter in time, I would go with you to Route 2, but it's going to be dark.
Yeah.
I don't think that's smart with 2 sore knees.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, yeah, I think if you're thinking you need to get off for a few days, I mean, this is the way to do it the fastest, and you could be at your house by the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. All right.
Okay, good luck.
So
yeah,
that
and
way.
text me when you get
you.
down. Yeah.
I will. You'll hear from me. Just keep an ear out.
Yeah.
Because you might have to come running down and rescue me as I fell into a tree or something.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, good luck.
Yeah. I'll see you in Grafton.
All right.
Although I knew that my mom was frustrated to be forced off trail due to injury for a second time, she had accomplished one of her goals, walking home. My mom lives in western Maine, just a 40-minute drive from where we were. So I picked up my pack and I pushed on towards the border. All right, well, it's August 29th. I just crossed the border into Maine. I'm standing right here in front of the sign acknowledging the border. It says Appalachian Trail, New Hampshire, Maine state line. And then we've got some distances here, which probably aren't 100% accurate because these are always changing a little bit year to year, but it says Springer Mountain, 1,908 miles, Katahdin, 282 miles. While it may seem strange to some, at this point in my Appalachian Trail hike, 282 miles felt like nothing. It would take a while for me to catch my first glimpse of Katahdin, but the closer I got, the more I felt its draw. In our next episode, I reach Maine's famous 100-mile wilderness and learn about how the Appalachian Mountain Club is using the White Mountain National Forest as a model to protect this unique area. Common Land is a production of the Wildlands Collective. This season was produced in partnership with New Hampshire Public Radio. This episode was produced by me, your host, Matt Podolsky. Music is by Blue Dot Sessions. To listen to the next episode in the series, just search for Common Land in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about the show and to see a full list of credits, go to commonlandpodcast.com.